Thank you for coming out. At the beginning of this year, we announced we would target individuals committing violent crimes and selling drugs in our community. Not quantity arrests, but quality arrests, focused on those who had committed violent felonies and high-level drug offenses. As part of my 100-day public safety plan, we created a foundation that allows IMPD to develop intelligence and allows IMPD to target known offenders and locations of criminal activity. As part of the next phase of addressing our city's public safety epidemic, I have directed Chief Troy Riggs and the men and women of IMPD to develop plans to conduct citywide operations like the one we are here to discuss today. 2 weeks ago, we announced plans for major operations throughout the city to target drug dealers and violent offenders who commit crime in our community. Today's operation is a continuation of Operation First Step, which yielded significant intelligence about crime in our community. You can expect more operations of this magnitude throughout the summer and the rest of the year as we continue to make the streets of Indianapolis safer for those who live, for those who work and raise families in our community. And now for more specific detail on what IMPD has been able to accomplish today, I'm pleased and proud to introduce our Chief, Troy Riggs. Chief.
All right, thank you, boss. Good afternoon. Let me just kind of reset for you Operation First Step. Began a couple weeks ago. The first was on a Friday afternoon when we did traffic enforcement in some of our areas that were having traffic issues and also high crime areas. I think 44 citations were written that day. Numerous breaks were given for different infractions to citizens as well. The following day, we had search warrants, but we also checked on people with probation pro. You covered that. You know we had about 26 arrests as a result of that day's activity. And then we followed that up the following Monday with our beat officers out on the streets talking to citizens and also clergy involved, talking to community members and our social services, trying to help the families that were left behind after the arrest. With the intelligence we gathered there in the continuation of investigations, I want to point out that we had a major arrest last week. A couple that was selling narcotics were arrested by our narcotics to do long-term investigations. And because of a continuation of Operation First Step, yesterday there were charges filed in state court for individuals in possession of 1 kilo of cocaine. Today, we continue Operation First Step throughout the city. We have held 5 different search warrants this morning. I want to thank the men and women of IMPD for their hard work and diligence this morning. As a result of this operation that continues, I think we're still in a couple of those houses still searching at this time. But so far, we've executed those 5 search warrants. We have arrested 8 people. At least 3 of these arrests were serious felons, violent felons, in possession of a firearm. And I think that is important, especially when you look at some of our homicide numbers and those that have previous arrests for firearms. And I also want to point out that the mayor and I have been very clear that we have a lot of individuals in this city being shot that will not cooperate with police. One of the individuals we picked up this morning had been involved in a non-fatal shooting, I believe, in March, and refused to cooperate, and now is going to jail on narcotics charges. We've seized 6 guns today. One of these handguns was reported stolen in the city of Indianapolis in 1969. Give you a couple of updates. In the 1500 block of West 23rd Street, we encountered a marijuana grow operation with formaldehyde, which is commonly referred to as wet. These 2 chemicals produce a very dangerous high for anyone using that. In the 2700 block of Columbia Street, 10.5 grams of cocaine and 3 handguns were seized. The cocaine seizure prevents over 50 individual sales of crack cocaine on the streets of Indianapolis. And then in the 3100 block of West 10th Street, we seized a gun and heroin from one individual in the house. I will say this. One of the reasons we didn't publicize this earlier is we are concerned about the safety of our officers. One of the reasons we went in early is because we thought it would mitigate the risk to our officers and for any potential innocent people that would be in the homes typically on a Friday or Saturday night. So that's why we chose Thursday morning to go into these homes. Once again, as the mayor said, we will continue these operations. It's called Operation First Step for a reason. It's because it's the first step in us continuing these type of aggressive patrols that are focused to try to remove those individuals that have a propensity for violence in the city of Indianapolis. We have a long road ahead of us. We are not going to be able to fix this public safety crisis, as the mayor has talked about, overnight, but I am very pleased with the work of the police department, and I'm as equally pleased the commitment from social service people and also the ministers that have rallied around to help us and help those families that are left behind. At this time, the mayor and I certainly take any questions you may have.
What's the real impact today, people who live in those neighborhoods, on the heels of these arrests?
Well, I think the real impact is there is less of an opportunity that somebody's going to be selling drugs over this long weekend and potentially being murdered as a result of a drug house or with these weapons. Think about this. 6 weapons now that will not be on the street. 6 weapons taken off the street. 3 individuals with serious violent felony convictions in their past with weapons today. They are not going to be on the streets of Indianapolis this weekend. That makes this weekend safer just by those few arrests.
Chief, can you talk about firearm assaults on police officers, how the problem has grown, maybe why, and what can be done?
Well, I think if you look nationally, you're seeing a dramatic increase in violent crime in every major city in America. We're seeing those numbers continue to escalate across the nation. Quite frankly, when you compare our last 6 months of last year to the first 6 months, ours is lower as far as homicides. But if you look at the assaults on officers, and people are surprised to hear this, we have 700 assaults on our officers per year. 700. In 2009, I believe it was, there were 5 of those assaults were from some type of weapon, a firearm. In 2014, that went up to about 37. So we can obviously see that people do not care to use weapons against officers, and if they're willing to use a weapon against a police officer, they're certainly willing to use a weapon against a citizen in this community. And let me also say, in the last, I believe, 3 or 4 weeks, we've pulled AK-47s out of cars that are in the front seat of people driving through the city of Indianapolis. That's the work of our beat officers. That's the work of our narcotics teams in the districts that are brand new. We could not have done this operation in January. We couldn't have done it in February. We only had the narcotics teams and beat officers in place in mid-May. That's why the mayor laid that very aggressive 100-day plan into the community.
So what's next with these arrests?
We'll continue to investigate that. Any information we get, we will see if we can work that case further. I will tell you that we're going to be busy this weekend. I'm not going to give you all the details, but this is a very long weekend. It's a holiday weekend. We've seen violence centered around holiday weekends that fall on when a day falls near a weekend and people are taking extra days off. We've seen violence escalate. So we want to make sure that we enhance patrols throughout this weekend, but you're also going to see enhanced and targeted patrols for the remainder of this year going into next year. It'll be certainly part of our strategic plan.
How soon do you go back in with some of the support services?
That will start almost immediately. We will share that with our social service partners. We'll share that with our clergy. And remember, the individuals that are actually coming to this building to be interviewed will also be interviewed not only by our narcotics detectives, our homicide detectives, but there'll also be someone here representing social services to have a private conversation to see if there's anyone in the homes that need help.